I said on X breaking, Silksong reviews are tanking in China because of a poorly translated version of the game. I genuinely feel for the Team Cherry on this one because there wasn't any kind of realistic way for them to know what the language would come out across badly. Now they're getting hammered in review scores for something outside of the core gameplay itself. This shows just how important localization or translation or whatever word you want to use there has become and how much it can impact perception of a game worldwide. And I quote tweet Matthew Griffin, the guy that works at Team Cherry, and he says, "To our Chinese speaking fans, we appreciate you letting us know about quality issues with the current simplified Chinese translation of Hollow Knight Silksong. We'll be working to improve the translation over the coming weeks. Thanks for your feedback and support." Which I got to be honest, like it seems like such a silly thing for a review bomb, but at the same time, I get it if it's that bad because I try to think of it from like if there was like an RPG coming from China and it was a lot of text and the text was just like really bad and it made no sense in English, I'd be like, "Yeah, the game's great, but the translations really take you out of the world. It makes no sense." I almost feel like in a weird way that adds to the lore of the game, but still, maybe I'm just old school with that. But you can now break down on Steam to the languages and where the reviews are coming from. And I did this earlier and I switched to simplified Chinese and it was mixed with 11,000 plus reviews over there. And we're going to go through some of these here. This is, again, like I said, from Matthew Griffin. He's marketing and publishing for Hollow Knight. And here is one of the reviews over on Steam, which I obviously do not speak Chinese, have no idea what that says. So I brought it over to ChatGPT. And I said, translate to English. I put it here like that. Here's a faithful English translation of your provided text. I've kept the sarcastic tone and mocking style intact. And they said, these two Chinese translations are truly over the top. As a so-called translator, the person has absolutely no literary sense. They act like some wannabe ancient comedy scholar, twisting character settings, making place names into jokes, and every line of dialogue is so awkward it makes you curl your toes in secondhand embarrassment. Forcing a Western fantasy world into fake mysticism as if some pretentious literary youth deserves worship from players. And when criticized, they just wipe their posts and play dead. They're nothing but a sickly gotcha game addict with connections getting rehired. Places that should be concise are getting overwritten with flowery nonsense to show off their brilliance, while character tone and world building get rewritten into awkward classical Chinese. And this ugly font, hideous, heavy shadows plus bold sim sun create a text quality that's pure garbage. Imagine if you're an office worker, head spinning after a long day. Suddenly, a coworker reminds you it's September 4th, release date for your most beloved game, Silksong. You rush home after work, just past 9 p.m., shower, change, and at 10 p.m., sharp you buy, install, and launch the game. Finally, you're about to play the sequel you've been waiting 5 years for. Here it is, the most exciting part, the opening poem. You still remember the Hollow Knight opening verse swept you into that world. But now, as subtitles roll, you're confused. This doesn't sound like Hollow Knight at all. No rhyme, no rhythm. And when the signature appears, Falom, your tired eyes freeze. Who? Is this a person's name or place? Then comes Record of Folly. Maybe another name? Whatever. Time to enjoy the opening cutscene of the long-awaited sequel. The needle pierces the girl's side. She picks up, health refilled. You step out of the starter room, excitement surging. Lush scenery fills the screen. Pleasant, crisp BGM begins. Here it comes, the location frame. You remember the thrill when Dirtmouth appeared on screen. But instead of the 4-character name you were expecting, you see 2 bold Song T characters in a clunky frame. moss cave. You're utterly dumbfounded. Where's my mossy cavern? If they translated Hollow Knight, they have what they named it and what they should have called it. They said if they translate Dark Souls, the Crestfarian warriors' first encounter would be the great power of the lords is not something us mere Ashen can ever match. You worthless fools, return to your graves and slumber. One single review sparks outrage. Countless translation defenders jump in, and suddenly you're branded a bandwagoning troll. Funny thing is, I, your big daddy here, don't even like using your sugar daddy Steam or PC to play 2D games. I just think nothing beats the satisfying rumble when my Switch coins explode. Booting PC games is a hassle. The only reason I bought this 2D game here was to play it and unlock review rights so I could flush out you worthless trash, shame you, voyeur you, and all you can do is send me private DMs. Pathetic. Crawl back to your translation daddy and be filial there. So the reason why I wanted to go through that entire explanation there is to get a firsthand experience of the frustration that somebody in particular was having with the translation issues with Hollow Knight. Now, in Team Cherry's defense, like I said, I do feel for them because when you're trying to put a game together, you're going to not know every language, and you have to just trust the localizers that are available if you're an indie studio to just enroll them and sign them up and do it and hope they do a good job. You don't know Chinese. You have no way to verify what the hell they're doing. You just need to trust that it's right. And it sounds to me like they went with someone that is not the ideal candidate for localization. You know what fixes this? AI fixes this. I feel like the sweeping changes with artificial intelligence, many careers being flatlined, localization and translation is going to be destroyed completely. Now that AI is advancing to the point of being able to almost be human with emotions, with what they're trying to get across metaphorically in one language into another one, almost better than what a human could do right now. And I wanted to read this one because I wholeheartedly agree with this. Loke says, I really feel sorry for what happened to your company. I know it's incredibly tough to determine the quality of a localization without being able to speak the language yourself. Are you aware of the fact that one of the translators also broke the NDA and shared insider info on Chinese social media? Screenshots are here, which, yikes, that's pretty crazy. Pete Copen says, I know you're a small team, but you really shouldn't hire people with near zero work experience to do localization. There's no way for you to tell if a translation is up to standard until you release the game. So you have to go by trust and past work experience. The guy you hired, Hertz, broke his NDA by leaking messages from your Discord server. He also used machine translation for at least some parts of his work. His effort seems to have been focused on taking machine translated Chinese, then rewriting it in the most annoying, broken classical Chinese style possible. Oof. But again, it's really hard. Like, you could look, if this was strictly, again, I don't mean to come across as like an apologist for Team Cherry right now, but if you look at this strictly as a small team, and if they were just making a game for United States or English and Chinese, then obviously there'd be more focus on making sure the Chinese, they get it right. This game launched worldwide on the same day from, again, a small team. English, simplified Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Spanish in Latin America, Korean, French, German, Turkish, traditional Chinese, Polish, Italian, Ukrainian. I mean, I'm impressed that they were even able to do it in that many languages. That's insane. That's insane. This is one of those situations where it's like, now that technology has progressed to the part that it is, people are now starting to get expectations that they would have never had before in a million years. They would have just wanted to play a game no matter what, and they'd play it in the wrong language. They just wanted to play the game. So now we're getting to the point where they're like getting a little bit picky. And this one says, the Chinese translation is really poor and doesn't conform to expression habits of Chinese people. I understand maybe the work is related to faith and needs to incorporate classical Chinese expressions, but it shouldn't come at the cost of damaging players' experience. It sounds to me that this translation is so terrible that it's actually forcing people to give bad reviews on it. Like, think about that for a second, because I've played many games with terrible translation, and I would still give it a recommended review. So it sounds like whoever translated this was not qualified at all, and Team Cherry was just in over their head, thinking that they could just be quickly pushing this through and not having an issue. This comes to us from comicbook.com. It said Silksong reviews tank following massive release. Developer responds. It looks like Western indie studios will need to take this concern more seriously in the future. On Steam, Silksong suffering from a deluge of negative reviews over the state of Chinese translation, which disgruntled fans feel is worse than the original Hollow Knight and leans too heavily into archaic speech and pretentious prose. While the game currently has a very positive rating from reviews in all languages, Silksong only has 51% mixed rating from simplified Chinese. This brings the game's entire average down compared to the review languages like English, where it's overwhelmingly positive. So, yeah, it's one of the dumber reasons to see a review bomb. But at the same time, if it's really that bad, then it might deserve a bad review. And I think Team Cherry is probably, that is the major fire they're working on putting out right now, I would imagine. While they're also celebrating a massive success, there's going to be some hiccups along the way. And this is a massive hiccup for simplified Chinese. But I have a feeling that this is something they'll be able to rectify fairly quickly. With the infinite amount of money they just made off this game, they could probably hire an entire building of people to put this out in 24 hours and fix it all. But we will see. I do think that's interesting, though, that the one thing that's holding this game down is the translation in China. That's curious. It's curious. But yeah, I will leave that one there.